Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about faith and trust in God and the power of God's love as well as your family's love. There's nothing like knowing that you are loved and cared for. Can't you agree with that? I know that I surely do. Well, my guest today is author Farida Aubain, and I can't wait to talk to her about her book. Now, we are going to discuss Miracle of the Prayer Cloth. She has so much information, just a wealth of knowledge. And I'm not going to dilly-dally because I want to jump right in. So you know what I'm about to say. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea because we are about to get started. Good morning, Farida. Thank you so much for joining me today on Daily Spark.
Good morning, Dr. Chester, and good morning to the audience also, your listening audience.
Yes, I love it. Now, before we get started, and I definitely want to talk about your book, I always read people's bios, and sometimes, that can be a little dry. No matter how awesome the person is, I don't always want to just read it. So I'm going to ask you, can you tell us in your own words, who are you? What have you done? Is there something you're most proud of?
Okay, my name is Farida Aubain, and the pen name for the book is Amali Sabali. I am an accountant by profession, and I was married because my husband died a few years ago, but I was married to John Aubain, and together we lived in St. Thomas. I was originally from Trinidad, West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago, and I relocated to St. Thomas where I met my husband, and he was my brother's best friend. And I lived with my brother, and That's how we met, and that's how we got at first. He thought he cared about me when he saw me, but he grew on me because I get to know what a wonderful person he was, and he was my friend first. And then we got married, and we have 2 kids, and now I'm the proud grandmother of 5 grandkids.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
It is. And I have always thought that I have been so blessed because God is an awesome God.
Most definitely. I know that for many people, the idea of a large family is not what they want, but I'm one of those people that I love large families, and I always say the more the merrier, and then people say until the holidays, right? But I love it, just having a house full of people and enjoying, having your siblings around, and just the stories and all that you get to share. And it's one of those things that makes me think about that blessing that says, when you have friends and family, then your joys are double joys, but your sorrows are half sorrows because you have them there with you. So I think that is amazing. I love it. Now, switching gears just a little and talking about your book. Now, I do tend to ask this question of many of my authors, and that's this. Did you find that the title of your book came to you first, or were you writing and the title kind of came out of your writings, like the title just came to you?
It came to me. It came after the writings. It came to me after. When I realized that my husband was well after being sick for so long, and he got better, and I never knew what a prayer cloth was. And a friend of mine brought it for me. Her husband was in the hospital together with my husband, and her husband died, and Johnny was just there, my husband, and he wasn't getting better. He wasn't dying. He was just there. And one day she brought the prayer cloth for me. And she said, I brought this for you. And she held it up, an envelope. And I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of it. And I said, what is it? And she told me it's a prayer cloth. And I said, well, what is it actually? What is it? I know you said it's a prayer cloth, but what? And she said, well, the elders in the church, they anointed the cloth and they prayed on it and they called your husband's name. And she said, let it touch his skin. And if it is the will of God, you'll see some improvement. And if not, we tried. And by then, Dr. Chester was willing to try anything because he just lay there for months, not even knowing if we were there or not. And I put it on him. I did. And it was not a week. She told me like a week I might see something, a sign. And it was 3 days.
Yeah.
And he opened his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I run and I called the nurse and I said, something is happening. He opened his eyes. And she came and she started to evaluate him. And she said, do you know your name? And he had just come out of being there for so long, like 6 months, and he just looked at us. And after she asked him about 3 times, she said, well, your name is John, but do you know your last name? And he still didn't remember. And she said, well, is it Smith? Are you John Smith? And he told her yes. And I started to cry and I said, dear God, you brought him back. Now, what's wrong with his mind? And we prayed again and we prayed. And I went to him and I said, you have to remember, your name is John Aubain and stuff like that. And do you know, it was like 3 days later, I went to him and I said, do you know who I am? And he said, my wife. And I said, do you have kids? And he said, 2. And I went on my knees and I said, thank you, dear God, you brought him back. After this one, I'm sorry to cry, but every time I talk about it, it's so emotional.
Yeah.
My God has been so good. It's because of his divine mercy and blessings that my Johnny got better. And I thank him every day. I thank him every day. I thank him. And I said, dear God, thank you. And do you know, Dr. Chester, that Johnny lived, they were saying after he lay there for so many years so many months, he would be a cripple and he wouldn't be able to walk or do certain things. But a couple of days after this happened, we kept praying and we'd pray and ask God to just be there for him and help us no matter what happened, give us the strength to just go through whatever we have to go through.
Yeah.
And then I was there with him. They gave a little cot for me to stay next to him because he was on the step-down unit then. And I was praying, and then opposite the wall, I had a nanny for my kids, and she would always tell me, God talks to her. And I never understood. And that night, when I was there, I saw my Lord Jesus Christ. I saw his face. It was on the wall, and I know when they talk to you, it's not opening their mouth, but it's like telepathically. And it came to me that he said, Johnny will walk tomorrow. And he lay there for 6 months and nothing. Then the therapist, I forgot, and it came just a peaceful sleep. I slept that night, which I hadn't done for a long time. And they came in the morning, 2 therapists, and they said, we will try to see if he could stand and then if he could make little steps. And he was so scared. He kept saying, I don't know if I could do it. And then I looked at him. I said, try. You could do it, hon. You could do it. And he stood up with each one of them on the side of him. And then they said, try. And, he took like 3 baby steps. And then I remember my Lord Jesus Christ saying he will walk, and that was good enough for me. because he did walk. He did. It may have been baby steps, but he did. And then after that, it was so long because he had to do occupational therapy and physical therapy, but he got better and he was normal, and he lived another 20 years, driving, doing everything as if he was never that sick. And it is all because of God's blessings and his divine mercy and grace towards us.
I think that anyone who hears that story and they know a friend or a loved one who has been in a serious accident, they know that moment of being by the bedside and just praying with all of their might and all of their energy. Lord, give us strength and touch my loved one that's here. So many people know that triumphant story of being able to bring that loved one home and how they have been able to thrive, be it that it is for 6 months or 60 more years, the blessing of having that person be able to come home. So yes, I can definitely relate to that as someone who is a cancer survivor who had to have surgery done, and just, putting my faith in God as you have to have that surgery and opening your eyes and the praise that is on your tongue, even if you're not quite to yourself yet, just thank God I have made it back to this side to be with my family. That is an amazing feeling. Well, it is almost time to go to break, but before we do, I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we pick up a copy? And Farida, how do we follow you online?
Well, the name of the book is The Miracle of the Prayer Cloth, and they can get it from Amazon, or they can contact my publisher, which is iUniverse, or they can contact me. I do have a website, which is www.amalisabali.com. Or they can call me at home. My number is area code 340-774-6217.
Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can pick up a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Being with Infants by Montessori teacher trainer and world-renowned child specialist Beverly Kovach is finally on DVD and digital download. The long-awaited 3D disc set is essential for any new parent, grandparent, or infant caregiver wanting respectful relationships with infants and their care. Being with Infants is broken down into 20 easy-to-digest video lessons, complete with demonstrations. Everything from diapering, feeding, the proper way of picking up infants, sleep, crying, environment, play, weaning, and much more are covered. Being with Infants is available on DVD and digital download at Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. Order today and be sure to follow Being with Infants on Facebook for free bonus content.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today. I am Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Farida Aubain, and you will know her by her pen name, Amali Sabali. And she has written the book, Miracle of the Prayer Cloth. We are talking about faith and trust in God today and the power of God's love. I would love to talk to you a little bit more, Farida, about your husband and what landed him in the hospital. When and where were you when you found out about your husband?
Okay, my husband was at work, and somebody came to rob, I guess that was his intent. And my husband turned to go to the cash register, and he shot my husband through the stomach. It went in one side of his stomach and came out the other side. And when they called me, my kids were young. One was 7 and one was 5. And they called me and told me, his coworker, that he was cut and I should come to the hospital. And I didn't think it was anything serious. I just put the kids in the car and I drove to the hospital. And when I got there, I saw so many people there. And some of them were crying. And then my brother-in-law came to me and he said, Johnny was not cut, he was shot. And I said, what? And he said, well, we didn't want to tell you because you have to drive and come here. You had the 2 kids, to get anxious and excited. So we told you that, and we're sorry, but now that you're here, you know the truth. And he stayed in the hospital for about a month because his intestines were all messed up, and it was like a 12 or 14-hour surgery to get him together, and then they were not sure if he would live or die, and they worked with him, and eventually he got better. And that was the first time. That was because of the shooting, but after that, there were so many complications in his stomach. Sometimes he would have adhesions. I know all the medical terms because the adhesions are blockage in the intestines, or he would have fistulas, which are holes in the intestines, and then they'll have to go in again and operate. So many times he had to have surgery. And I remember one day the priest came when he got sick and wasn't getting better. And the priest came and he told me, he said, you should tell him to go because sometimes they linger for their loved ones because he's not getting better and he's not dying. And I said, what? And I couldn't do it, but I started to cry. And I told the priest, I said, it's not fair because the man that shot Johnny, he got some sentence. He got some jail time. I don't know how much it is, but he got something, and he's out there living his life. And my Johnny's the one that got the life sentence because he's in and out of the hospital every couple of years, fighting for his life. And when he was shot, he suffered a massive heart attack, and we never knew. He even had to have open heart surgery, have a synthetic aortic valve. And I told the priest, I said, there's so many things, and he's always fighting because we do not know if he lived to the next day. And this guy is out there living his life. And Johnny got the life sentence. And then the priest looked at me, and he held my hand, and he said, I just came from praying for Johnny, but now I pray for you, child. And I felt so bad, and I started to cry even more. And I said, hey, God, I'm so sorry. I know we should never question. We should never question, because you are the all-seeing, all-knowing, all-hearing, magnificent, merciful God that you are. And I was so sorry because my Johnny never asked why. He never, he just wanted to live. He never asked why or never blamed anyone,
Well, so many times we forget that when one person is injured or harmed, that it actually affects the whole family.
How true that is.
How were you and your family able to deal with the hospital visits and the recuperation time and just dealing with everything until he became a better self?
Well, I can tell you it's only because of our belief in God and our faith and trust in Him and knowing that no matter what happened, we would be okay. Whether he had died or he got better, we knew that with God, everything would be okay. And He's the one that gave us the strength to just continue on. Then we just, and we were just there. I had a wonderful family support, and I thank God for that also. And they were there with me, and many times I was alone because they would have to drive 3 hours one way to come to Johns Hopkins. And They were in Salisbury, Maryland. And many times I was alone. But, Dr. Chester, I never felt overwhelmed because I always knew I was never alone. My God was always there with me.
I'm so glad that you said that, because someone needs to be reminded of that we are never alone. We may only see ourselves in the room, but we are never alone. And it's so interesting that you say that, because I know that when my father got sick, my mother said that when she was talking to one of her friends as well, and I was so young and didn't fully understand what she meant by that, but I knew that what she was saying seemed so true and powerful for her, so I knew that it must be important that she said, I just knew that God was in the room. I just knew that God was there with me, and that He heard my prayers. So that is so important. Now, Farida, if you would please, somebody may not understand what this miracle cloth that you're talking about. Now, many denominations are familiar with the laying on of hands, with elders of the church, and with having prayer cloths. But for someone who doesn't understand that idea or that concept, could you remind us what is that again?
Well, it's a cloth. It reminded me of when you go to the eye doctor and they give you this little cloth to clean your glasses. It was something like that, soft and really velvety, and it felt like I could feel something. When I felt it, I could feel something, but it's not the cloth like I tell people. She told me it's a prayer cloth that they prayed on it and they anointed it, the elders of the church and everybody, and they prayed and anointed it. But I think that it's not just the cloth, that's just a representative of all the prayers that went into the cloth. It's the prayers and the belief and the trust that you have in God. It's like when you sprinkle holy water and you think that everything would be okay because you're blessed. Yeah. And I think the cloth represented that for them, and I didn't fully understand. But when he got better, I realized what it was. It was not just the cloth. It was just a representation of all the prayers and the trust and belief in God, and knowing that with him, everything would be okay. And I think you have to have the faith, and you have to know that, really trust him and believe in him and know he's there. Mm-hmm. And I think that is what the cloth represents. To me, that's what I think it is.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you said that it is not the cloth itself. It's not that the piece of fabric has miracle qualities about it, but it's what it represents, and that you understand that someone took the time to think of your loved one or to think of you and to pray over that cloth. Now, when your husband was in a better state and he was able to understand everything that had happened and all, did you tell him about the prayer cloth? And if you did, how did he feel about it?
I did. I told him, and I gave it to him, and he was in awe. He was just shocked because he never knew, because like I said, he just lay there. He never even knew if we were there or not. And like you say, it's not just your loved one that suffer. I think all the family members, seeing that loved one suffer, you suffer as much. And he never knew, but when I told him, he was just so shocked, and he said, well, can I have it? And I tell him yes. And he put it in his wallet, and he never let it out of his sight.
Yeah. I can imagine to have that. If we can be superstitious about, a lucky pair of socks or a lucky coin or something when it comes to a sport that we play, or, you're trying to buy a house or whatever it is, then surely we could feel the same way about a cloth that we know that our support team has prayed over that cloth and to take it with us. I can definitely understand that. Now, when you are talking to others and they're going through something that they too are having an event that is trying or testing their faith, what words of encouragement or wisdom do you share with them?
People who have gone through similar situations like I have or we have, I would always tell them that never give up hope, never give up, because God is always there in the midst. He's always there with us, and even though we do not see the improvement in our loved ones, not right away, but we know that He is there, and that if you just believe and trust, continue to do that, always believe that He is there, and He'd never leave us alone. He'd never forsake us. So we just need to believe and trust in Him and have the faith and know that our loved ones would be okay and we'd be okay.
I have to say, those are great words of wisdom. Now, we have about a minute left in the show, Farida, and I would love to just be able to offer you this minute to just share anything that you may have on your heart, or if there's a message that you would love to give to anyone who picks up a copy of your book. Just what would you like to share to our listeners in this last minute of time we have?
Well, I would just want them to see what our God has done for us and know that they too can benefit from the trust and love of our God. Because, like I said, He's the beneficent, merciful, awesome God that He is. And He hears all our prayers. And sometimes it mightn't turn out exactly as we want it, but He's there for us. And there's always hope. Never, never give up hope. Always remember that God is there. And everything is possible with Him.
Mm-hmm. I have to agree with you on that. Always remember that God is there. Good times, bad times, He is always there. Thank you for that wonderful reminder. One last time, if you could please, can you remind everyone what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Okay, the name of the book is The Miracle of the Prayer Cloth. And I am Farida Aubain, pen name Amali Sabali. The book could be purchased on Amazon or through my publisher, which is iUniverse, or they could contact me. My phone number is area code 340-774-6217. And I do have a website also, and it's www.amalisabali.com.
Thank you so much again for being a guest on Daily Spark with me today.
Oh, I thank you. Dr. Chester. I thank you so much, and continue the wonderful work that you're doing and encouraging everybody to just have the faith and believe, and we will all be okay if we do what you say.
Yes, I agree with you. Just have the faith and believe. Amen to that. Thank you. Well, listen. We want you to remember that God is always with you and continue to have the faith to believe. So, as always, may God's grace and mercy continue to be a part of your life. May His face always shine upon you. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.
Anne, Camilla, William, and Fred. The four in the Humvee are on a perilous journey, halfway across the country to a tent city near the Mississippi River, a long ways from Boston. Through each bend and turn, they meet some people in need and others who have evil in their souls. Four unlikely heroes in a Humvee on an unlikely trip, the recipe for a captivating story. Grab this book, EMP Casualty by Michael Kravitz.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative. I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.